Yes, I can.
Okay, great. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, we can, City of Los Angeles, we can hear you.
Thank you. Councilmember?
Oh, I have to take over. Okay.
Okay, and Diamond Bar, you want to let me know when everybody's ready to go?
We're ready to
go.
go.
Okay, let's call the meeting to order. I apologize for running a little late. The previous meeting ran a little long. This is the Technology Committee for September the 16th, 2016, and we are hereby in session. And let's get right into the meat of the things here. Item number 1, adopt resolution recognizing funds and accepting terms. Carl Moyer, and I understand Vicki White, you're going to be presenting on this one?
Yes.
Supervisor, our understanding from legal is that because of a camping contribution, you're unable to chair this item, but you may be, you are allowed to hear the item, but you may not vote.
Thank you for the reminder. And Mr. McCallum, would you mind chairing this item, and I will silently listen in.
Sure, thank you. Okay, staff.
Good afternoon. Hi, this item is part of our annual Carl Moyer Program Awards and the Soon Provision Awards as well. We come to the board every time, around this time every year to issue the awards. This recommended actions will be to adopt a resolution to recognize funds and accept the terms and conditions for the multi-district program, as well as execute contracts for both the Carl Moyer and Soon provision. This year, per an agreement between CAPCOA and CARB, AQMD was selected to administer the Year 18 multi-district program. As part of this effort, we had to submit a funding plan to CARB and obtain their approval. For this round in multi-district funds, we will be receiving $3 million in revenue from the State Reserve Fund. And of the $3 million, 6.25% is set aside for administrative costs. For the larger Carl Moyer program, this year we have received about 25.5 million, of which 6.25% is reserved for administrative costs. And our commitment to provide a local match, the amount of that commitment must be about 3.25 million, of which we plan to use our AB 923 funds to meet. So overall, for this year's Moyer program, we have a total of 31.9 million in funding, and the various sources of funding are here, and it also includes interest funds that were carried over from previous cycles of the program. In March of this year, we issued the program announcements, one for the general Carl Moyer program and one for the Soon provision. As a result of those solicitations, we received 165 proposals requesting over 55 million in program funding. The evaluation has been completed and the projects were selected according to this methodology here. The very first thing we did was we identified those projects that are located within EJ areas, and we selected those projects based on their cost effectiveness up to the maximum allowable cost effectiveness limit of $18,260 per ton. The next step was to take the remaining funds and select projects solely based on cost effectiveness. And this year, because of the program was overly subscribed, we selected projects up to $13,200 per ton. Due to the competitive nature, that was all we had funding for. And in the event of any fall-through projects, we are also proposing to submit a backup list of projects, and we were able to include projects up to about $16,000 per ton as part of a backup list in the event of any fall through or projects that didn't do all the units that were originally proposed. So overall, the recommended awards breakdown per project category is identified here. The one on-road project is a transit bus related project. It's to purchase 13 electric buses. We have one shore power project that involves retrofits of 2 marine vessel projects. These projects are eligible for funding under Moyer because the types of vessels are not container vessels, and therefore they're not subject to the state-wide shore power regulation. The locomotive project is a very old locomotive replacement they're proposing to do, and it's a switcher locomotive they're going to replace with an electric locomotive. The existing locomotive is a 1959 locomotive, so it's overdue for replacement. And then we're going to be funding several marine and off-road equipment projects, including agricultural tractors and other ag equipment, for a total of about $29.8 million. Under the SUM provision, we propose to fund 5 projects, including about 12 engines, for a total funding amount of $2 million, approximately. And overall, the project distribution and the benefits are here. In terms of emission reductions for the general Carl Moyer program, we're looking at about 314 tons per year of NOx and 12.1 tons per year of PM. And for the SUN, about 22.1 tons per year of NOx. Of all these awards, about 31% of all the recommended awards will be located in EJ areas. And here is another breakdown of the funding sources for both Carl Moyer and SUN awards. So our total funding amount this year will be about $31.98 million. And we plan to use SB 1107 funds, 923 funds, as well as interest funds from previous cycles. This gives a little bit of information about our backup list of projects. We have a list in the board letter that comprises about projects totaling about $4.1 million. And again, that was up to a cost effectiveness limit of $16,000 per ton. And should there be any fall through funding we can take advantage of, we'll go ahead and select the projects from that list based on cost effectiveness. We have a need to consolidate some older 923 funds with the newer account where we're managing the 923 funds. So this action is simply to do that. The funding that's in the older account is actually all in interest. So we just want to carry that over to the new account where we're tracking the 923 funds. So overall, the recommended actions are to adopt a resolution recognizing the $3 million in multi-district funds. And next would be to approve the Carl Moyer program projects, approve the SUM provision projects for an amount of about $2 million from the 923 funds and the backup list. And please approve the consolidation of the 923 funds by moving the older interest funds into the new account. This concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I need to interrupt. I'm sorry. I apologize, Mayor, at the risk of raising your ire on the supervisors at the same time. Council informs me that when the chair hands off the chairmanship for an item, it needs to go to either the vice chair, of which we do not have a vice chair, or the longest tenured board member, which would be Councilmember Mitchell.
Okay, I'm taking over. I'm enjoying my sandwich.
I can eat now.
You can eat now. Okay, thank you. So thank you for the report. Are there any questions for Ms. White from our committee members? Okay.
Move approval.
Second. Okay.
Public comment?
Any public comment on this item? And we have a second?
I think so.
We got a second. All right, we'll need a roll call on this, please.
Councilmember Buscaino,
Aye.
Mayor McCallum,
Yes.
Councilmember Mitchell,
Yes.
Councilmember Robinson.
Aye.
Motion passes 4 ayes.
Okay, well, it turns to the chairman now.
Yes.
Thank you, Councilmember Mitchell, and I'm sorry for grossly overestimating my authority and making the wrong decision on who to turn it over to. I also should have stated for the record that I have received contributions from at least one of the listed, and I think maybe several of the subsidiaries were counted, so that's the reason for my deferring on item number 1. So let's move to item number 2. And that item, I'm told Dualde Oshanuga is going to present. We're ready.
The item,
All right, are you hearing me?
yes, yes. The item before you is to recognize funds and amend award for locomotive replacement project. In February, the board approved a program announcement for locomotive projects under Prop 1B. That announcement closed in March of this year, and 2 locomotive projects were selected, one from the Metropolitan Stevedore Company for 1 locomotive replacement project, and the other one was from BNSF for 10 locomotive replacement projects. In April also of this year, SACOs applied, that is, staff applied for co-funding under the 2015-2016 US EPA DERA for locomotive replacement project. To maximize that DERA application chance of being funded by EPA, staff selected the Metropolitan Stevedore replacement project over BNSF for the DERA program for the following reason. 1, Metropolitan application is a class 3, Metropolitan is the class 3 railroad. Second, the existing locomotive was built prior to 1976, meaning that it is unregulated and quite dirty. And third, because of the replacement of this old locomotive with a Tier 4 locomotive will generate a significant amount of emission reductions. And finally, not only that Metropolitans meet the requirement under Prop 1B, it also meet the requirement under DERA requirements. In June of this year also, staff EPA informed us that our DERA application was approved for a total of $523,809. However, this award was predicated on providing mandatory cost share from both Metropolitan Stevedore and Prop 1B program. It was also stipulated that at least $500,000 can be used for the purchase of the new locomotive, and the remaining balance can be used to cover the cost of both implementing the DERA project. In July, the board awarded Metropolitan Stevedore a total of $1,091,600 under Prop 1B to satisfy the portion of the DERA mandatory matching fund requirement. After the July board's action, CARB clarified portion of Prop 1B applicable to Class 3 railroads and determined that Metropolitan Stevedore is eligible for higher funding award. As such, CARB came back to us, awarded an additional $100,400 to Metropolitan Stevedore locomotive replacement project. So, this proposal is to recognize up to $523,809 in DERA funds from US EPA. Second, to amend award with Metropolitan to increase funding by a total of $608,400 for a total of $1.7 million. And finally, to reimburse the general fund up to $23,809 for administrative costs. And finally, staff recommended actions are as follows. 1, to recognize upon receipt up to $523,809 in DERA funds from US EPA into Fund 17. Second, to amend award with Metropolitan Stevedore Company to increase funding award in an amount not to exceed $608,400 for a revised total award of $1.7 million. And finally, to reimburse the general fund for admin costs up to $23,800 from Fund 17. Thank you.
Okay, any questions from my colleagues?
Yes, sir.
Just one, how many locomotives are being replaced?
In the case of Metropolitan Stevedore is one locomotive. It's a pre-1976 locomotive. In the case of the BNSF, it's 10 locomotives.
10.
And this is just funding.
This is just the
This is just
Metropolitan Stevedore. It's just
funding
one.
Metropolitan Stevedore Company. Of course, like maybe I didn't mention this, that both the Stevedore as well as the BNSF applications were funded under Prop 1B as
What's the cost of Class 4? Sorry, Tier 4.
well. Roughly, it's about $3 million.
How much?
$3 million.
3 million.
Any further questions? It's a lot of money. Well, do we have any public comments? Seeing none, do we have a motion?
I'll move it.
Second?
We have a motion and second, we call the roll, please.
Councilmember Buscaino,
Yes.
Mayor McCallum,
Yes.
Councilmember Mitchell,
Yes.
Councilmember Robinson,
Aye.
Supervisor Benoit.
Aye.
Motion passes 5 ayes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Next item is recognizing funds, the med contract relating ultra-low emission natural gas engine. And I understand Richard Carlson, are you ready to present on that one?
I am, sir. So
Go
this
right
should
ahead.
be,
Thank you.
all right, this should be a relatively short item. We're recognizing funds from the California Energy Commission recently awarded, applying them to an existing contract and increasing the amount of that contract to in accordance with the additional money being recognized. Last year, Cummins Westport received a $4.2 million contract from the district to develop the 12-liter natural gas ultra-low emission engine. That project is underway. Activity is focused primarily on developmental calibration work that's going on now, and the CEC money was originally intended to be awarded by CEC directly through an independent contract with Cummins Westport. They subsequently decided that administratively that was difficult because they had to do it on a sole source basis, and so they elected then to flow the money through us as the best way to move the project forward. So that action occurred Wednesday. The CEC board did in fact authorize the contract with us, and we expect to execute it in the next month or so, I guess. So the proposal is to recognize the $1 million awarded from CEC and to amend the contract with CWI to increase the grant amount by the $1 million. So the recommended actions are to recognize the funds from CEC into the Clean Fuels Fund and to amend the Cummins Westport contract for the $1 million increase. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, colleagues. Seeing no
Chairman,
questions or
please.
comments, okay.
I have a
All right,
question.
Ms. Mitchell, sure.
So are they working to certification of this engine?
Yes, they are.
And that's what we're doing?
Yes.
Okay. I'll move the item.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any public comments? I should always remember to ask that. I forget. Don't see any. Seeing none, can we call the roll?
Councilmember Buscaino,
Aye.
Mayor McCallum,
Yes.
Councilmember Mitchell.
Yes.
Councilmember Robinson.
Aye.
Supervisor Benoit.
Aye.
Motion passes 5 ayes.
Thank you very much. And item number 4, transfer funding to enhance application process for EFME. And Mr. Saito is ready to present on that one?
That's correct, Supervisor Benoit, thank you. This item is to, This item is to transfer funds and modify an existing contract for purposes of amending the EFMP website and the consumer application process. By means of background, the EFMP program is a voluntary program targeting low household incomes and allowing consumers to retire and replace their existing vehicle, older, higher emitting vehicle with an advanced technology vehicle. As you recall, last month at the governing board meeting, they recognized up to $13.7 million from the state for the EFMP and EFMP Plus Up program. The current EFMP website and call-in center is maintained by an outside contractor. To improve the efficiency of the program, staff is proposing to develop an in-house website maintained on district servers. Staff solicited informal bids from 4 LOE contractors, and a 4-person in-house review panel selected Varson E-Technology as the best bid. Staff is proposing also to include the operation of a call center, internal call center for a 1-year period, and the transfer of funds for focused outreach and marketing of the EFMP program. Specifically, the recommended action includes the transfer of $175,000 from the HEROES 2 special revenue funding into STA's 2016-17 budget, amending the existing contract with Varson Technology to develop an in-house web-based application process not to exceed $150,000, allocate $25,000 for website maintenance, and reimbursement of administrative costs up to $10,000 for operation of an in-house call center for the EFMP program. The transfer as needed of up to $70,000 from the HEROES 2 special revenue account into STA's 2016-17 and 2017-18 budget to assist in the implementation of the EFMP program, including focused outreach. And that concludes my presentation.
Okay, questions, colleagues?
I have one.
Mr. Mitchell?
No, it's not me. It's Larry. I know we look alike.
Okay, sorry about that. Go ahead.
Her hair's a little longer than mine.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. So we have a backlog right now in this.
Mayor.
Yes, we currently do have a waiting list of between 800 to 1,000.
So there's a need to promote the program?
I think that with the additional funding from the state, we're going to need to do continued outreach to spend that money, yes.
So we're doing this to spend money and not to increase the backlog?
Well, we're going to reduce the backlog and then take new applications in order to spend the
The outreach funding is only as needed, so you're right. We currently have a backlog. Your board just approved funding to receive funding from ARB, which we hope will take care of the backlog. But the legislation that was just approved is giving ARB quite a big sum of money for EFMP, and they're going to divide it up amongst the air districts. We're going to get a fairly large chunk of that. And so we want to do targeted outreach to all the 4 counties. Right now, the bulk of the respondents are from LA County.
So in terms of the backlog, we're actually down to more like 600 on the wait list. We've been slowly chipping away with the funding we have. ARB indicated that when we receive the new funding, of that 15%, 5% should go towards outreach for new applicants. And so we will focus on that, but there's also outreach in terms of education, in terms of the advanced technology vehicles. ARB wants to make sure that when an applicant receives a voucher and they do pick up an advanced technology vehicle, they understand some of the challenges that they face, for example, battery range and so forth. So we have prepared materials using that portion of the funds, and that's considered outreach, and it's not direct marketing outreach, it's more of an educational outreach.
Further questions?
Yep. What's our current cost to the outside contractor? So what are we paying right now for
So currently we have 4 contractors.
Okay.
3 are doing what's called case management. And the expenditure for them is about $500,000 each at this point. And this goes all the way back to the end of beginning of 2015 when we first started the program. So right now, last month your board approved the release of a RFP to to get new services for case management and also for emissions vehicle testing. So those 2 parts are there. And we believe that with the administrative funding from the state, that can cover the case management part. So the RFP that's released, we anticipate on the order of about $700,000 to go over almost a 2-year period for case management alone. And it's very complex process for case management. It's not simply receiving an application. The case manager actually has to deal, I shouldn't use the word deal, but work with the applicant and work with dealerships and to find the vehicle. There's a lot of concerns at the get-go that consumers participating in the program may be taken advantage of,
Sure.
given the way certain dealership practices have been highlighted. So there's a fair amount of work between the case manager and the applicant to look for the vehicle and also to make sure that the existing vehicle is tested, emissions tested, and the eligibility is complex in another sense because there's household income eligibility, and that sets how much money would go towards a voucher for the program. So it's a very complex program. I wish it was more like the Moyer program, but again, Moyer program is moderately complex compared to the EFMP program. So.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate that explanation there. I get more specific to my point though. I was just wondering how much we're currently spending just on the website part. So what our agenda item is about right now. So what are we spending with outside contractors versus?
So one of the contractors actually developed the website.
One of those 3
the 3
case
foundation
management companies.
for
Okay. They're
California.
doing that in the course of their overall contract with us. So is there a way
That's
to
right.
break out that portion to know what our costs are there, or is that just something that they're?
Yeah, the website that they've developed is pretty rudimentary. It's essentially it's a flyer.
Yeah.
It's like an electronic
It's a-
flyer with some input capability.
Right.
The new capability we want is to have not only input and upload of documents, but then tracking, so that the customer can come back online and say, where's my application in the process? And what steps are needed? Did I miss anything? So, Henry was saying the case management is complex, and this website will help not only our contractor, but also the customer be able to work through these issues as opposed to just calling them constantly to try to get information. So the intent is to be not only an upload and application process, but also a database, so we'll be able to manage and find out how many from each county are submitting applications, what type of car they selected. So we'll have a better track or better handle on the data.
Okay, so basically there's just this static page out there right now that.
Well, they can start
Somewhat,
their application
yeah.
process, but it's pretty rudimentary.
For the most part. Okay, so we're comparing, it's kind of like an apples and oranges comparison here. 'Cause in general, I mean, philosophically, I'm usually more supportive of contracting out, but it doesn't sound like what we're talking about is what is being done out there right now. It's just a part of their case management overall contract. So, okay, that's.
And so
Better
when we
explanation.
need statistics, because our legislative staff have been in contact by state legislative staff regarding the progress in the program. And every time they ask for information, we have to ask the contractors to give us the information so we can develop the summary statistics. So with this in-house capability, we'll be able to do that very quickly. We also want a linkage to the finance side of it so that our finance staff to keep track of how much money is expended at any time. Because our program doesn't stop when we run out of money. We continue to take applications, and that's ARB's request. And it's up to them to find the money for us, but they're saying that it would look bad if we just stop the program. So we continue to take applications, but we process on a cautious basis. As the monies go down, we make sure ARB provides us more money
Sure.
for the program.
Okay. That was all my questions. Just one comment, piggybacking off of Mayor McCallan. I don't know if you're still the mayor, but Mayor McCallan's, I'll call him mayor. His comment, and then also Dr. Liu's from the most recent board meeting, but seems like with it being oversubscribed, so to speak, that we probably don't need to concentrate a whole lot on the marketing side, but I do appreciate the comment you made that we're looking at the 3 counties that are probably underrepresented at this point as we move forward with additional funds. And so that makes sense from a logical perspective. So I appreciate that.
Okay. Okay, any other comments or questions?
I'll move the item.
How about public comments, any?
None here.
No, none here.
Okay, we have a motion and a
I'll
second, I
second it.
believe. We'll call the roll.
Councilmember Buscaino.
Thank you.
Aye.
Mayor McCallan.
Yes.
Councilmember Mitchell.
Aye.
Councilmember Robinson.
Aye.
Supervisor Benoit.
Aye.
Motion passes 5 ayes.
There's one yes.
Okay, so that moves us to the item 6, and that, Mr. Joseph M. Puliti, are you there?
Item 5.
I'm sorry?
I believe we're on item 5.
Okay, I'm sorry, I skipped an item number 5, and that's Mr. Andrea Polidori. Are you ready?
Yes, correct. All right, good afternoon.
Go ahead.
So this item is about basically a study that we will conduct to basically educate and empower California community on the use and application of low-cost air monitoring sensors. So some background, about 2 years ago, South Coast AQMD applied for a competitive EPA STAR grant to basically study the development of an application of low-cost sensor technology. This was a nationwide application, so EPA received about 100 proposals, and South Coast AQMD's AQ-SPEC, which is the program with the South Coast AQMD that test and evaluate air quality sensors. AQ-SPEC basically was awarded one of the 6 available grants. So other recipients of this particular EPA STAR grant include MIT in Boston, Carnegie Mellon in Pittsburgh, and other universities. And to the best of our knowledge, this is the first time that an EPA STAR grant is awarded to a governmental agency like ours. So basically, we are going to conduct a 3-year study with 2 other collaborators, University of Southern California, UCLA University of California, Los Angeles, and Sonoma Technology. As I said, this is a 3-year study. The cost of the study is approximately $750,000, and we will address 4 specific aims. Aim number 1 is about developing educational material for communities. So basically, we will develop, written guides, videos, and in general, a toolkit with information on sensors and on information about how to use the sensors and retrieve meaningful data. So in particular, we will work with 6 California communities, 2 communities in Southern California, and 2 communities in possibly in Central California, and 2 others in Northern California. The goal is to basically recruit about, at the very least, 200 subjects for the studies. And the recruitment will be supported by both CCA, EJ, and CBE. The aim number 2 is about evaluating the performance of these sensors and identify candidate sensors for the deployment. So we are already doing that within the AQ-Spec activities. And specifically, we have been doing the testing for about 2 years now. We have tested about 25 plus sensors, both in the field and some of them also in the lab. And specific sensor will be selected based on the specific problems of each community that will be selected for this study. Aim number 3 is about deploying the sensors in the field throughout California. So we have in mind to deploy at the very least 150 sensors throughout California in this community, so about 20 to 30 sensors per community. And along with UCLA, we will basically evaluate the sensor performance, retrieve the data, and provide a final summary of the sensor data and of our results. So aim number 4, the last aim, is about communicating the lessons learned to the public. So all of the educational material, when it has been finalized, will be distributed to other California communities and to whoever is interested in this type of work. All of the data collected within this study will be basically posted for free on our existing AQ-Spec websites. And during the study, and most likely even after the study, we will conduct community workshops throughout Southern California to disseminate the study results. There are enormous benefits about conducting a study like this because for single individuals and for communities, basically the results of this study will allow them to get the knowledge necessary, the knowledge that they need to correctly use these air quality sensors and correctly interpret the sensor data. And of course, even for other governmental organizations, the results of this study will allow them to better understand air quality issues at the community level. So the recommended action is to recognize up to about $750,000 from this grant and appropriate up to approximately $670,000 into the science and technology advancement budget for this year and for the next 2 years. And with this, I conclude.
Okay. Thank you for the presentation, colleagues.
Question? Mr. Chairman, this
Go
is
right ahead,
this
Mitchell.
is Judy Mitchell.
Yeah, Judy Mitchell, yeah. You're looking younger all the time, too.
Not very I'm wondering, are we testing sensors from different manufacturers so we can have a comparison on accuracy?
Yes. So we have basically either purchased or leased all type of low-cost sensors from all over the web, Amazon, eBay, and pretty much everything that we can find around. And so we test for both different pollutants and within the same pollutant from different manufacturers.
So I know if we're here in our region, we can test the results against our laboratory results, but you've got 2 of these going on in the Central Valley and 2 in Northern California. Are there comparable laboratories that you check against, or how do we do that?
So the testing is done in-house. So whenever we procure these sensors, we deploy them in the field at one of our monitoring stations. And so we compare the performance of those sensors against our EPA-approved reference instruments. And then when we deploy them in the field for 2 months, so we get plenty of data, and then we bring them back in the lab where we have a state-of-the-art laboratory chamber. And there we are able to test for different environmental parameters like relative humidity, temperature, so for all kinds of different environmental conditions. But we are one of the few, if not the only, comprehensive testing center in the nation. So there are not many other organizations that can do this.
The other agencies don't need to have AQ specs since we have that. So we'll evaluate the sensors first, validate them, and then we'll deploy them out. And they can be deployed anywhere once we validate them.
So what I'm wondering though is, I guess CARB, I guess they're statewide monitoring stations. But what I'm assuming is you're taking this, this sort of personal monitor and you're comparing it against monitors that we know are accurate. And so we have a number of them in our district, but those monitors exist in these other districts as well, so you'll be doing that kind of comparison.
Yeah, so we've already, once we validated the instrument or the monitor works, and it works within a certain error band. So we've already done that for a handful. In fact, I was just pointing at the AQ-SPEC page. We've already evaluated a bunch of sensors, and we're giving the correlation between that sensor and our federal reference monitors.
Okay.
Once we have that, we can deploy them anywhere. But you're bringing up a good point, is they have to be calibrated in the field, and that's why we have Sonoma Tech and UCLA working with us. So you can't just put it out there. You've got to go through some calibrations. But we're pretty confident that we'll select the right sensor for the right application so that the data can be interpreted appropriately. But we're also working through CAPCOA, so the other air districts are involved.
Good.
So how are the communities chosen that they're going to be put, how are those picked?
It hasn't been fully vetted yet, so since we just received the award, it was in the proposal, so we have some ideas how we will select communities. Currently, we're just accepting hand raisers, so for folks that are interested, we're putting them on a list, and then we'll have to begin the process of developing an evaluations protocol on how we would select the different communities.
So the people in Northern California and Central California are participating in that selection process?
They will be, so we'll help. That's why we have these two environmental justice organizations, it's CBE and then CCAEJ. So it's a Penny Newman group out in the Inland Empire, but then CBE is a California-wide environmental justice NGO. So they'll help us select the communities, but also the sensors need to be selected for the appropriate challenge or problem. So depending on what the issue is for each community, we'll have to choose the right sensor.
Okay.
But we're not limited to
Right.
the existing organizations, and there may be other opportunities to partner.
Absolutely. So this isn't mutually exclusive for any of the activities that we're already doing under AQ-SPEC.
Okay, I will move the item.
I'll second. No,
Thank you. Any further discussion from my colleagues? Let me just add that I, in the briefing, discussed our program where we test these devices in-house, and it was a groundbreaking concept, and we ventured into that path, and I think we're doing a good job of it. And these devices will be ones that we've found to be effective and reliable. But what I don't think we've had is a good report back to the board of how that program in general is working, how many devices have been approved, what's our experience in there, how well is it being self-funding as we had hoped that it would be. And so I hope that we can bring that back in a short order to bring the board back up to speed on how that program is working. So I shared that with staff, and I'm sure Mr. Nastry's heard it, and hopefully we can get that done soon.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. Any public comment before we take a vote? Don't see any, so please call the roll.
Councilmember Buscaino,
Aye.
Mayor McCallum,
Aye.
Councilmember Mitchell,
Yes.
Councilmember Robinson,
Aye.
Supervisor Benoit.
Aye.
Motion passes 5 ayes.
Okay, thank you. And now I think we're ready to go to item number 6, Joseph M. Uliti.
Yes,
And you're on.
okay. Okay, item 6 here is to recognize revenue and execute a contract, develop and demonstrate a fuel cell heavy-duty truck. And this is part of our Department of Energy Zero Emission Cargo Transport program. Back in December of 2014, the board recognized $10 million from the Department of Energy for this zero emission cargo transport project. And International Rectifier was one of 4 contractors who planned to develop a diesel hybrid truck with fast charge capabilities. In August of this year, Infineon Technologies had acquired International Rectifier, and after that acquisition, they decided not to go forward with the project. And that left some money on the table that we wanted to put to use. So we approached Hydrogenics USA. They're located in San Diego, to build and demonstrate a fuel cell range extended truck. Now we knew that they had already received an award from the CEC to design and develop one truck, that's fuel cell range extended truck. And what we did was request them to, hey, why don't you build a second one under the same architecture, same design, and allow us to demonstrate it in our zero-emission cargo transport project. They agreed, and the DOE approved that. And in addition to the DOE money, I also knew that the ports were going to separately fund that. And so I asked the ports if they would like to join us on this project and add that 283, a little bit over 283,000. And they did, and so they're going to pass through that money to us and add it to the 1.1 million that they already dedicated to this project. Some of the key features of this vehicle would be a fuel cell, a 60 kilowatt fuel cell, a larger battery. So this is more of a battery dominant with fuel cell range extender. Have enough hydrogen in that 30 kilograms to go 150 miles. They're also going to join us in a 2-year demonstration of this truck hauling drayage from the ports to near dock rail yards and warehouses. Here you see the funding for the project. As I mentioned, CEC is putting up at $983K for the design and development of the vehicle. The DOE funds will go for the extra truck, the additional truck that we will demonstrate in our project. And Hydrogenics is doing some in-kind contributions, which mostly goes to fleet operators who are going to drive these trucks. And then the port's TAP program, as I mentioned, and all that adds up to a little bit over 2.4 million. The actions that were recommended actions here are to recognize the port's funds into our Fund 61 to develop and demonstrate these trucks, and then transfer an equal amount of that from our Clean Fuels Fund as a loan to Fund 61. And then execute a contract with Hydrogenics to develop and demonstrate the range extended truck, fuel cell range extended truck. And that's it.
Okay, colleagues? Okay, one question I had, did I see, I didn't hear any questions. Okay.
I have one, but I'll wait for you.
This is this is a plug-in hybrid, am my understanding correctly? So the truck will charge overnight, but then the fuel cell extends the range?
No, there will not be any plug-in capabilities. Basically, the battery, it's going to be in a charge sustaining mode, which means that the fuel cell will be operating all the time, 100% of the time, supplying energy to the battery, and the battery is used by the truck's powertrain to power that.
Okay.
And that way the battery actually gives it a much longer life, because you don't have the swings of depleting it and going, from a low state of charge and then refilling it.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Robinson, was it? Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Just to fill in on that a little bit more, so that the initial agreement with International Rectifier was to do the plug-in hybrid, right?
Yeah,
And
that
so
was
this
going
is
to be a
just
plug-in hybrid.
so
that would have been quick charge with a quick charge cable.
Forgive me, because even though I've been here, about 8 or 9 months, still somewhat new. So I'm not really up to speed on when the financing goes out to those that we're contracting with. So my question specifically is, did International Rectifier ever spend or receive any funds?
No, we never contracted with them. We never got to that point.
So it never got to that point.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
so we never used any of the DOE funds.
Okay. When we do, because we've had a few issues where things have fallen apart afterward, do we have any sort of way of rectifying that? Do we have any clawback provisions or anything when people do spend funds and then they go through a purchase or something like that?
So there are instances when they're incentive programs. So when it's a commercially available technology, if we fund it through our Moyer Prop 1B, if they do something illegal or something happens to the truck and they haven't finished their term, then there's chances that we can put a lien on it or try to get some of the funding back. In cases for technology demonstration where they're pre-commercial, we know that it may or may not be successful. We pay on milestones.
Okay.
So they have to, for example, in this case, they would have to design the truck, you get X%. you have, and in this case, we also have to get DOE's approval. They have to make purchases for parts, then we get approved a certain amount. So there are gates in which they have to cross before we will release any funding.
Okay.
And that's how we typically ensure that we're not putting all the eggs in one basket up front.
I figured that was the case. I just wanted to make sure. So, then if I understand correctly, we're the total project funding here, including their own in-kind, is 2.4 million. That's for one truck. Is that right?
Well, that's also for the design and development, which includes one-time engineering cost.
Okay.
So it's not really that's all going just to build a truck, but it's the design of it, the truck, the modeling, the simulation, all the engineering work behind it.
Okay. Is this similar to, because we said we're asking them to build a second truck? So is that design engineering? I mean, is there?
Yeah,
some,
that's already
I know
been
it's not
paid
much
for.
of a scale.
Right.
Was that there's some economy of scale in two rather than one? You know.
Yeah, that 2.4 is actually is meant for the whole, because that has a CEC money in it.
There's
really,
CEC money
really
in there.
Two trucks,
So
so I don't know if that makes you feel any better.
Well,
yeah. What we're going to,
bit.
yeah, the only, as you see in the action there, it's only 1.1 million that we're going to contract with Hydrogenics. Okay, so those are the funds that they're getting for the additional truck.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, that helps a little bit. Still a lot of money for a single truck. But I know it's just, this is the
Councilman,
R&D
those are
side
good,
too, but
those are good questions.
Yeah.
In fact, we had some of those questions during the briefing. We should have probably covered some of that. There was nothing expended on the previous contract, and that was the point we brought up earlier. But thank you for those. Any others of colleagues?
I just want to comment
public
how
comment?
this, if I can, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead. Sure.
This is the type of technology that we've been thirsting for at the port complex. I've heard it from friends and family who are dock workers and truckers that, you know, having clean tech trucks come in and out of the port is all great, but they have to ensure that the technology is in place for the long haul. So I'm happy to hear the advancement. I believe this also will fit in well. This type of technology will fit in well as the two ports are crafting their the Clean Air Action Plan, was it 3.0? So happy to support this and move the item.
I'll second.
So we have a motion and a second. I want to just add on to Councilman Buscaino's comments. When I heard this thing, this is exactly what we need to make huge steps forward. The technology is still in its infancy, but it's going to be a big part of the solution. So, Madam, if you'll call the roll, please.
Councilmember Buscaino,
Aye.
Mayor McCallum,
Yes.
Councilmember Mitchell,
Yes.
Councilmember Robinson,
Aye.
Supervisor Benoit.
Aye.
Motion passes 5 ayes.
Okay. Well, let's see, I think we have item 7. Is any other business or comments from staff or committee members? Hearing none, do we have any other general public comment?
None here.
None here.
Seeing and hearing none, thank you for your participation, one and all, and meeting adjourned.
Have a good weekend. Thank you.
Of course, as we get longer haul hydrogen fuel cell trucks going out through the end of the Empire in Riverside County, we need the infrastructure there to refuel it. We've got one in San Bernardino County and one in Riverside County. And how many are in the LA basin?
I think there's around 30, but there's an approval for probably another 30 or so.
That includes the heavy duty, the 35 and 70.
Heavy duty will have a separate protocol, so it hasn't been yet developed. They're currently using the bus protocol. So once these projects are successful, that's when we really want to think about how do we either share the infrastructure or build separate pumps for light duty and then heavy duty.
We need to get more out in the San Bernardino and Riverside area. Because that's where all the trucks are coming through. If we want to advance this technology, they've got to be able to refuel.
Work with Share to find out first
Well, you know what?
I know.
I'm
I'm trying.
What actually would be better is.
There were discussions
And I like the fuel cell technology personally.
for the VW settlement, which we didn't talk about at Mobile Source Committee. It's another $800 million that would be for zero emission infrastructure. And the question was asked whether hydrogen qualifies.
I mentioned
And
talking
ARB said
about
yes.
after this,
So
that's gonna be on the road, but.
No, I didn't get it, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Well, let me,
Yeah.
let's see if I can find it.
In general, I mean.
More mornings.
Probably not as good as that. Meetings, we need that here.
Oh, yeah.
A little Edison committee that I.
The only thing that I had was the meeting from Mass.
It's all right, it must be.
Had that kind
I actually,
I think they did it all in, there's something called November.
I hope it's not an old one. I typed in your name, but it could've just gone to your cell phone. If I could, I hope it's not, and I'm just thinking now.
Well, there are some people that want to knock me out.
Yes, absolutely. What term is this for you?
I've been serving since 2002.
It's not in my fifth.
I don't have that
I
one.
was elected in 1999. Interesting. I had.
Well, this is our first by district election.
Well,
Really, oh, that's different.
do you mind sending it again right now? Let's see if I can get it.
So are you mayor still?
I'm still the mayor, but we choose the mayor
That's what we
between
do.
us
Yeah, we rotate.
every December. So
Yeah.
whoever's got 3 votes wants the job.
Seems like everybody's kind of wants the job, you know?
Well,
Although I'm not sure.
no more power.